Hello, welcome back. Thank you, as always, for joining me here. We're going to continue the theme from the last video of the little willingness here. It's what we supply. And we'll talk for a couple of minutes about the backdrop of that and then get further into it. So, if you're following along in the text of A Course in Miracles, this is chapter 18, section 4. It's entitled The Little Willingness, and it's a theme that runs throughout the course. So, what we're doing here is going one paragraph at a time. Today, we're going to focus on paragraphs 2 and 3, and we're going slowly through this because there's a lot here. We have every reason not to glance over this because it's essential. Now, of course, we can say the same about every single word of A Course in Miracles, all of it. Text, workbook, manual for teachers, everything. But let's just pay some particular attention to this notion of the little willingness because it has a lot to say about what we call our progress on the path. It has pretty much everything to say about how we show up and how we approach this thing that we call life. As a course student who has heard the call of our inner teacher and more than once, I'm certain, answered it. Thank you. So the backdrop is the little willingness to awaken, the little willingness to experience what the Course refers to as the holy instant, where the veil is lifted, even if only for a couple of seconds. It's our little willingness to have the peace of God and nothing else. By the way, there is nothing else, but it's our willingness to have that and nothing else that we bring. And the Holy Spirit, our inner teacher, that part of our mind that will point the way for us, if only we're willing to listen, does the rest. It's our inner teacher that supplies the might, the power, the magnitude, as we saw in the most recent video. All we do is show up with our little willingness, and then we relax. It's hard for us to do, I understand, and trust. Again, we find that one hard at times, don't we? That's what we do, though. We relax and trust the guidance of our inner teacher and allow the situation to be just as it is. We allow truth to be just as it is without our attempts to order it around, to manipulate and control it. That right there describes pretty much the entire spiritual path. So we could, in fact, period, mic drop, end this conversation right there, but we won't. It's important. So let's continue on with this conversation. We're invited to trust our willingness. Trust this little willingness implicitly. Our good intentions are not enough. That's true in all of life, isn't it? Your good intentions, maybe just that, good intentions, but they're not enough. So we're invited to not place our trust solely in our good intentions, but trust implicitly that little willingness that we bring. I think of many situations in life where our good intentions only get us so far. We may mean well, but how many things in life, whether it's spirituality or work or your physical health or relationships for that matter, I mean, how many arenas of your life have you kind of just dabbled in? You kind of got involved in something part of the way. Maybe, maybe not half-heartedly. Maybe you had every intention of it, but never really went all in on it. We all have experiences like that. So we're invited to just not trust our good intentions alone. They are not enough. Our willingness is, however, trust that and trust it implicitly. What we want to do is not assume that there's something in particular that we have to do here, nor that there's something that we have to achieve here. When we approach spirituality, awakening, enlightenment, whatever you want to call it, spiritual growth, progress, realization, I mean, that that idea, that's what we're talking about, whatever you want to call that. When we approach it, it's often with the filter, with the lens of our egoic conditioning here in the world, where it's all about do, 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 and achieve, achieve, achieve. So, why, you might ask, is that a hindrance? Well, it's a hindrance because when we think that we have to do things a certain way, what we're really doing is expressing a deep down wish to be something other than we are. In other words, we're saying, whether it feels like it or not, we are saying, I want it to be this way. And if it's not this way, then I've failed. Or if I can't handle that, someone else has failed and I blame him. I blame her. I blame them. I blame this group of people, that group of people. It's their fault. So it's a trap that we have repeatedly, of course, fallen into. We do it all the time. So we're specifically invited here to set that aside, to set aside any expectation that anything in particular is going to happen on the screen of life here. This course is not about affecting change in what we call the world. It's not. It's not about getting more money, though that might very well happen as a result of your practicing this course. I mean, think about it. The happier and more forgiving and loving you are, what happens? Your brother's drawn to what looks like you. It's really them. It's both of you, because there is no separation of any kind. You attract people, but getting more money, getting a different physical body is not the point. It's not the point to effect change in the world that appears outside of us. It's all about changing our mind, rather. So that's why, as you peruse A Course in Miracles and pour through it, maybe, and study it, you don't see anything dedicated to getting a better job, a bigger bank account, and a better house, achieving your desires and sating your desires in the world of form. There is no world. There's no world of form. If you've not heard that before, that is in fact the central teaching of A Course in Miracles. All appearances of course, here in the world, point to the hardcore reality of it, yet you know deep down that it is true, that there's more to it than simply meeting the needs of this. If you did not know that, you would not be here. So that's something that gets repeated on these videos because it's so, so important. You've come a lot farther than you think, and you're closer than you think. Of course, it may not feel like it right now. I get that. And we all have days where it feels like, oh man, here we go again. This isn't working. Well, what that feeling is nothing more nor less, it's very important, than an opportunity to forgive. Forgive whatever is appearing on the screen of life out there. Forgive, release, forgive, release. So we're invited not to carry with us our lens, our filter of ego conditioning, and expect to get anything in particular. We're invited simply to let truth be just as it is. Let it be just as it is. This is something that we find, of course, inherently difficult because whether you label yourself a control freak or not, we are all control freaks when we identify as an ego, as an individual. Our pressing, and sometimes it really does feel like a pressing need to achieve something in the world of form, to effect a particular outcome in the world of form, is nothing more than our desire to be something other than what we are. So the moment to moment practice of letting truth be just as it is very powerful. This is what is meant in spiritual traditions by getting out of our own way. We impede ourselves, we get in our own way. This is a practice of getting out of our own way. Because when we get in our own way, we spin around. We do the same things over and over again. And while we're expecting a different result, no surprise, we don't get it. So this is very powerful indeed and worth the dedicated focus and repetition. It really is. A difficulty, a particular difficulty that we encounter with this, with simply relaxing and trusting and letting truth be just as it is, something really, really profound comes up here. And it's painful when it comes up. It's the fact that we don't feel worthy. Mm. There's some very good and detailed language about this in paragraph 3. What we run up against is the fact that we don't feel worthy of God, of who and what we really are, of our own power, of love, of forgiveness, of joy, of happiness. We've grown so accustomed to belittling ourselves and settling for less that we find this conditioning very, very difficult to set aside. It's something that's entirely common on the path because, in one form or another, we all run into this at some point. So we find it difficult to just accept that we are worthy just as we are and let all the feelings and the sense of unworthiness go. Again, we come back to the simple yet incredibly profound idea of letting truth be just as it is. This means you're letting yourself be just as you are, without all of your preconceived notions, without all of your labels, and in particular, without all of your rampant self judgments of, I'm not worthy, I suck, I'm scum. No, you're not. Who and what you are is powerful. And I don't mean power here in the world, power over like political power or business power or anything like that. I mean the knowledge and recognition that your will and the will of God are one in the same. I mean accessing your real power, which is power with. It's power that is experienced in perfect oneness without all of the ego divisions that appear to rule our mind. When we accept truth just as it is, we're accessing our power. Because the way things appear here on the screen of life, here in the world, is not the way they are. We've made it real to ourselves. Of course we have. It looks and feels real. We can feel this, for example. This looks real. The stuff that appears to surround us looks real. The world itself looks real. We've made it real to ourselves. So it feels real. The events that transpire here in the world look and feel real, sometimes painfully real. Again, there is no world. This means where you are, well, this is not our home. Deep down, we know that. We know that there's more to it than the physical body. Yeah, you're not a body either. Anything that changes, including the world, because it's constantly changing, isn't it? Including the physical body, anything that changes or shifts or transforms at all is illusion. Now we appear appear to live in a world that's governed 100% by illusion. Yet, even here you are. You have heard the call of our inner teacher and you have listened. So, for that, I thank you. The magnitude of that is profound. And I hope that in some way you get how important it is to every single living thing that you're here right now. I can't possibly stress the importance of that enough. So for this, I really do thank you. It's huge, huge. So again, I hope you get that. This is a profound, profound practice. Relaxing and trusting the guidance of our inner teacher and allowing truth to be just as it is. It is, in fact, one of the most profound prayers that you could utter. And if you've not tried it, I invite you to try it. Ask your inner teacher for help in allowing truth to be just as it is. Help me allow truth to be just as it is. Or whatever phraseology comes to your mind. Try it. You might really like that. Something tells me you would. It's my own experience with it. Yeah. It's very, very interesting about experience because, in fact, all of spirituality is about experience. So it's possible for us to pay attention to this dialogue, which I appreciate, or any other spiritual talk or reading or anything. What matters is our practical application. It's all about experience. I have had some very, very wonderful teachings from various traditions and various teachers in this lifetime. Among them was the Tibetan trained Western Buddhist Lama named Michael Conklin, who was the resident teacher at a Tibetan Buddhist center in Portland, Oregon for many years. And when I lived up there, I studied with him for quite some time. And he said something that is really, really cool and true. He said, nothing exists until you experience it. Hmm. Spirituality is all about experience. So, how do we really learn the best? Well, through practical application and experience. It is our experience in life that shows us that these ideas are true. We don't even have to understand them. If you don't get this, that's all right. No problem. Put it into practice anyway. Your experience will teach you. That's very profound. And even if you do get it on the level of the intellectual thinking mind, it's still nothing compared to the practical application of the material, where our experience shows, proves, and demonstrates to us that the ideas that we're studying here are true. So you're always invited to do that. And I encourage you to put these ideas into practice, no matter what you may or may not currently understand about them. Take this away, if nothing else. There is no separation of any kind. Period. You're not separate from your brother. In other words, you're not separate from other people. You're not separate from God. There is no separation of any kind. Okay, so I thank you as always for joining me today. If you have not subscribed, I'd love to have you join us. It's a growing international community, and several videos appear each week here. That's the prompt over here in the corner of your screen. Click that if you haven't joined us and subscribe. Join us. Questions are always more than welcome. So if you've got them, please feel welcome to leave them here. This is a perfect place, referring to the comment thread here on YouTube. And well, yeah, even if you want to just pop in and say hello, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much again for tuning in, and I will see you again very soon.